Peace everybody, back with another video. This is Minneapolis will ban chokeholds after the killing of George Floyd. And as you can tell that the alleged killing happened in Minneapolis on May 25th, which was staged, by the way. The police in Minneapolis, they are out of control. They're out of order. They allegedly killed George Floyd, those 4 officers, and the people of Minneapolis were upset that everything was burned down in Minneapolis after what the rioters and the looters did. AutoZone's gone, Target's gone, everything's gone except for the laundromat, and that was it. And as you can see here, all this staged protests. Demonstrators marched across the Brooklyn Bridge to protest police brutality. So that's what happened. The demonstrators, they marched across the Brooklyn Bridge to protest police brutality because people are getting sick and tired of the police brutality. They have no right to be in the police force. They are hired by the mayor of your state. And they should not be allowed to have these kind of police officers in the police force because, it's dangerous and anything could happen to the innocent people of anywhere. Minneapolis officials agreed to ban the use of chokeholds Friday after the killing of George Floyd, whose death at the hands of police have sparked outrage and protests around the world against police brutality. So the Minneapolis officials agreed to ban the use of chokeholds, but in New York City, where Eric Gardner was just minding his business, selling CDs or loose cigarettes or whatever it was he was selling, an officer came up to him and asked him to put up his hands, and when he said no, he would not comply with any of the thing. The officer in New York City took it and used a chokehold on Eric Gardner. So you have to remember what happened to Eric Gardner in 2014. And it's still happening now with the police brutality. They are literally killing the black community, the white community, whatever community. They do not care anymore. The city council approved the ban as part of a court stipulation for a temporary restraining order with the Minnesota Department of Human Rights, which filed a civil rights charge against the Minneapolis Police Department this week in connection with Floyd's death. The agreement also requires officers to immediately report and intervene if they observe another officer using a chokehold or neck restraint. So the city council did approve of the ban as part of a court stipulation. So they had no choice but to get go to court and ban this chokehold as for a temporary restraining order with the Minnesota Department of Human Rights, but filed a civil rights charge against the Minneapolis Police Department. So they have to obey that order. If they don't, then they're in trouble. The agreement also requires officers to immediately report and intervene if they observe another officer using a chokehold or neck restraint. So if one officer is doing a chokehold and another officer sees it, that officer who saw it has to get that officer to stop it, not to stop putting the chokehold on the person. This is a moment in time where we can totally change the way our police department operates. Mayor Jacob Fry said during the council meeting, now we can finally get this right, and so we've been propelled by this extraordinary energy and unprecedented or pre-centered recognition that we have to be on the precipice of change, and that there are reforms that are generations past due. Alright, so Jacob Fry, he's deep state for Minneapolis, Minnesota, which is a racist city in the world, but not like what Chicago is really the most racist city. Um, but he's claiming that now we can finally get this right, and so we've been propelled by this extraordinary energy and unprecedented recognition that we have to be on the precipice of change, and that there are reforms that are generations past due. Well, first of all, the mayor is not going to give a damn at all. He doesn't care about the city of Minneapolis at all. He just likes to have the police there using a chokehold. But since this went to court, they had to ban the chokehold immediately because it was way out of control with the police. Floyd, 46, died May 25th after being detained by 4 Minneapolis police officers who were responding to a call about a person using a counterfeit $20 bill. One officer, whose actions were captured in a disturbing video, pinned him to the ground and held him in a knee chokehold for more than 8 minutes as Floyd cried that he couldn't breathe. The 4 officers have since been arrested and are facing charges. Well, excuse me, Floyd and the one officer that had his knee on his neck, they know each other in real life. This is all for show, what they are doing. Floyd and Officer and Chauvin, they know each other in real life. They put this story because the mainstream media wants chaos and destruction. That's all they care about. Now, the counterfeit $20 bill, I did not see that. It's nowhere in the video or anything. One officer whose actions were captured in a disturbing video pinned him to the ground. No, did not, because it's staged. This is a whole bunch of lies of what's really going on because of what happened. Floyd cried that he couldn't breathe. Well, excuse me, but when the officer had his knee on his neck, he did not have it on the front part of his neck. Now, I saw a video of it on Twitter, on Twitter. The officer only had his knee on the back of his neck, not the front part where you could stop breathing in that. So this is how I know this whole thing is staged. And of course, here's, I don't know, a picture that says defund police, defend black lives. The only way you're going to defund the police is get rid of the bad ones. That's the only way you're going to get rid of them. Get rid of the alleged Klansmen police, because they're the ones that are doing the killing. The innocent police, they have no idea what's going on whatsoever. Demonstrators hang a sign next to a mural of George Floyd in Oakland, California. So they had hung a sign in Oakland, California. On Tuesday, the State Department of Human Rights filed a discrimination charge against the city, initiating an investigation into the police department's policies and practices over the past 10 years to determine if it has engaged in systematic discriminatory practices and toward people of color. So they have been doing this for a long time, the police brutality. All right. They are discriminating people of color. They, when the officers do an arrest, they're only going after the black community. Why? Because they can't stand them. The police officers, I mean. Why aren't the white people getting arrested too for anything they've done? The white people are getting arrested too, but they're not putting the chokeholds on they're not, but the police are not beating the white people. They're only beating the black people. Why? Why is that? The police are racist. Think about it. George Floyd should be alive. Human Rights Commissioner Rebecca Lucero said in a statement announcing the investigation. Community leaders have been asking for structural change for decades. They have fought for this, and it is essential that we acknowledge the work and commitment to those who have paved the path to make today's announcement possible. Alright, so now they're trying to say George Floyd should be alive. Human Rights Commissioner Rebecca is saying in a statement announcing the investigation. Alright. They have fought for this, and it is essential that we acknowledge the work. So, and commitment to those who have paved the path to make today's announcement possible. So they've been fighting for change for decades. I mean, you go all the way back to the whatever year it started at, where the police are racist. Under the agreement approved by the council, the city will also require that any use of crowd control weapons, such as tear gas and rubber bullets during protests and demonstrations, be authorized by the police chief rather than a supervisor. So the supervisor has no say over it, but the police chief does. How does this ever work? The police chief needs to go too out of Minneapolis. They need to go. Got to get rid of the police chief, got to get rid of the bad cops, put in the whole new system of good cops. In addition, the stipulation and order, which still have to be approved by a judge, includes a provision of requiring the city to audit body cameras footage to identify discriminatory practices in policing. Right now, footage is only reviewed when there is a complaint, Lucero said. Alright, so the police that wear the body cameras, they record things, but when things are getting escalated, they turn them off immediately. So this way that they don't have the evidence on their body camera to know what really happened. Because and then when the FBI jumps in or whatever, they can't find the thing of what the police are doing to the people. But there are people with cell phones that can record everything what is going on. This is just a start. There is a lot more work to do here, Lucero told the council, and that work must and will be done with deep community engagement. Well, the people of Minneapolis, they lost everything. Stores, everything. The elderly, they have no way of getting their medicines that they need. People from other states around Minneapolis, Minnesota, or whatever, they're coming to help clean up of Minneapolis. They're helping. And you think the mainstream media is going to record that? No, because they don't care. The mainstream media only cares about the destruction and chaos. That's all they care about. They're not going to come back, oh, look, the community is helping these people in Minneapolis. They're not going to tell you that. They're not going to record that and show you. Until somebody gets there to record everything with a cell phone to see how beautiful the people from other states are coming to help people in Minneapolis, Minnesota. The mainstream media don't care about that stuff. They only care about destruction and chaos. City officials said the agreement and the state's investigation will allow the city to enact policing reforms that have previously been thwarted due to provisions in the police union contract and state law. Well, since first of all, these police should have had a background check to see if they're with the alleged Klansmen. They should have did that background check, but they don't do it because they don't care who they let in. The good cops are mixed in with the bad ones that are racist. Think about it. I do trust this chief, and I believe that he is primed to lead this work in this city and to set an example for how police reform can look for the rest of the country, Fry said. Well, Jacob Fry can go have several seats and shut up because he allowed this to happen. He allowed every single bit of it to happen. He even allowed his city to burn down. That's how racist he is, Jacob Fry. He's a Hillary Clinton supporter. In New York, the city council is expected to vote on a measure to criminalize the use of chokeholds by the New York Police Department later this month. Well, you know what? I live in the city of Buffalo, New York, where these freaking cops are totally racist. All right, they are totally racist. They don't care who they hurt or whatever. But New York City, Bill de Blasio, he let his city burn. That's why when Donald Trump told the mayors to call in the National Guard, Bill de Blasio said no. So he let his city burn. George Floyd died in Minneapolis the same way Eric Garner did in New York, pleading that he could not breathe. New York Rep. Gregory W. Meeks said in a statement about the council bill, restricting airflows by way of chokehold is undeniably the use of deadly force, and it is past due, and that the use of that deadly force comes with real consequences, and it does come with consequences, because if they were to use that, they're going to get fired, they're going to go to court, they're going to go to jail after that. So, you got to go through the whole process of everything with the police, because they are just out of control, and they have no respect for anybody whatsoever. So you need to get rid of the police chief needs to go, the bad cops need to go, the mayor needs to go, the governor needs to go. Get rid of them all, because they're bad news. They don't care whatsoever. So please, just hopefully that all this will be over soon with the police, because they're just bad news. Leave your comments below. I am out.